reason why you're looking through vehicles in our parking lot, sir?
Well,
Keep your hands out of your pockets for me.
I was looking around.
Okay. Keep your hands out of your pockets before
It's not in my pocket.
Okay. We're not going to play this game right now. I'm asking you questions. I just need an answer. Keep your hand out of your pocket.
It's not in my pocket.
Okay.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer. Today's video comes to us from Lake Dallas, Texas. It features an auditor that I haven't covered here before, but I have seen several videos on his channel. The channel name is Chuck Bronson. I'm only going to show a portion of the video for the purposes of our discussion, just to talk about a couple things that we don't get to talk about very often. But I would encourage you to head over to Chuck Bronson's channel, check out the video in its entirety, and give him credit for doing the work. Mr. Bronson, I assume it's Mr. Bronson because he doesn't link to anybody else's video in the description, is, I guess, conducting like a late night audit or something. He's at this parking lot that is apparently used to store city police vehicles, and he's looking in the windows, and he's approached by a female officer, and they're going to have an interaction, and so we're going to watch, and we'll come back and talk about some things along the way.
Bingo.
What you doing looking through cars?
Huh?
You looking through the cars?
What do you mean?
I saw you right there looking through the cars.
What car did I look through?
You were looking through that car, that car, that car.
I was looking through them?
I saw
What's
you
that mean? Like going through one window and out the other? I don't understand. What do you mean looking through?
You were shining your flashlight.
Like looking in the passenger window and through the driver's side window?
All windows, sir.
Looking through all of them? You seen where my eyes were looking?
I could see you. I was sitting right there. You were looking around.
I'm well aware where you were sitting, but I'm just saying, is that illegal?
To look in other people's vehicles?
Yeah, it is. What statute is that?
I mean, you could possibly be breaking in.
Well, we don't care about possibly. We want law.
Do you have your ID on you?
For what? Am I under arrest?
That's suspicious. Obviously, you were looking through cars. Yes.
So I'm under arrest?
You're detained right now. Yes.
For what crime?
Looking through vehicles.
It's not a crime. You got a supervisor?
I sure do.
Okay,
Busy at the moment.
As soon as they're ready, can I see him?
I mean, you can.
Cool.
We'll be waiting here.
Okay. You know what the statute for looking in cars' windows is?
You said you're waiting for a supervisor. I'm not going to talk to you.
Okay.
My first observation about this young rookie police officer, she is way too close to him. You know, we hear all this stuff about officer safety. Her officer safety is on like a 2 out of 10. If she had just happened upon a person who was in the process of breaking into a bunch of vehicles and she was standing that close to them, they would access anything on her belt and completely render her unable to function within 5 seconds. So the fact that she has her eyes diverted to the left away from this guy, she has no idea what he's going to do. She doesn't know him. She doesn't know whether he's an auditor or what. I mean, it's nighttime. She doesn't have any idea what he is about to do. And she's literally sitting there like a 5-year-old who's going to ignore the person until they go away. So the fact that she has no distance, no ability to evade any sort of attack if she was actually encountering a criminal should be pretty alarming to anybody who's training her. That's first and foremost. Second of all, her facial expressions, I'm gathering that she's really young, both because she looks really young and because she is conducting herself in a very immature way. Her facial expressions are similar to a very, very young, virtue signaling, completely socially unaware person who's trying to convince you of something that they have absolutely no information to back up, but they try to pretend like you're stupid for not understanding. That's what this reminds me of. So when he's like, so it's illegal to look into cars? And she's like, yeah. The way that she communicates is like complete Kardashian. Like I don't understand how people like this find their way to the police department.
Is this the supervisor?
Sure is.
Well, that was quick. I thought he was busy.
He was on another
Yeah.
call.
Cool.
Okay. So, is there a reason why you're looking for vehicles in our parking lot, sir?
Well,
Keep your hands out of your pockets for me.
I was looking around.
Okay. Keep your hands out of your pockets before
It's
you
not
leave
in
the
my
house.
pocket.
Okay. We're not going to play this game right now. I'm asking you questions. I just need an answer. Keep your hand out of your pocket.
It's not in my pocket.
So you understand that that's a suspicious behavior that we got to check out on, right? Is there a reason why you were?
I mean, I don't understand. No.
Okay. Well, right now this isn't an open business. This isn't an open area. Okay. This is private property. Technically, it's the city's, yes. But during normal business hours, you're more than welcome to come through the parking lot. But at 11 at night, it's suspicious and we have to investigate that, okay?
Okay.
So because I did stop and talk with you, I do have to make a record of this interaction. Do you have any kind of identification on you so I can say we talked?
Am I under arrest?
You're not under arrest, but you are detained for my investigation, yes.
Okay. I mean, go ahead and investigate.
Okay. So do you have any kind of identification on you, sir?
Am I under arrest?
You are being detained. for
Florida
investigation.
statute 3802. I'm only required to give you my ID if I'm under arrest.
And I'm asking. That's all. That's it.
Okay.
So if
As
you
long
don't
as we're on the
finish your
same
ID,
page.
that's totally fine. Okay. So what I do need you to do, though, if you could just stand in front of her vehicle.
Okay. The crime is suspicion. I was trying to find the police department for a complaint form.
Oh, if you need a complaint form, I can help you with that.
That's what I'm here for if you want to know.
Yeah, and see, that's fine. I can actually run in and get you the complaint form if you need it.
Okay.
I can also tell you if you wanted to file a complaint, we do have all of our forms online,
Okay.
so you can submit it that way.
Yeah, I'd like to get it in person paper if possible.
Okay. Yeah, give me a second. I'm going to walk into the PD then and see if I can print you off a copy of that.
Sweet, appreciate
Just
it.
Give me one moment.
As far as detention goes, where I think that our friend Mr. Bronson here, if this is in fact him, is a little misled is that I don't believe this was an unlawful detention in this particular case. While I don't think, obviously, that this person is committing a crime, I do think that being in a parking lot, looking into vehicles at night when nobody else is around, in an area where the building attached to the parking lot is obviously closed, and you observe that the business hours say that they're closed, it is reasonable to stop and detain a person that you see looking in vehicles. Now, I know you guys don't want to hear that. I know you want me to basically shit on every single police officer that we do a video on. I am going to shit on this girl because I think she's not a good police officer, and I think she's way too immature for the job, and she has no people skills. But that doesn't mean that her detention of him was unreasonable. People get confused about Terry versus Ohio. You do not have to have a specific crime and articulate it to the person that you're detaining. One, you don't have to articulate it in most states at all. Your articulation comes when you articulate to a court because you took some enforcement action against the person, or you're explaining because the person sued you why you did what you did. But you have to have reasonable suspicion based on articulable facts that criminal activity is afoot, okay? Criminal activity doesn't require you to know the exact statute in your mind before you go make an investigatory detention of somebody. It used to be that before Terry, you couldn't actually do an investigatory detention or a Terry stop on somebody unless you had probable cause to arrest them. But Terry versus Ohio changed that. And so reasonable suspicion is an on-ramp to probable cause. It's not until you go to arrest somebody that you have to be able to cite a specific crime for the court. If you're just detaining someone, you can detain them because they're at night looking into windows with a flashlight. It's perfectly reasonable. But he's smart. He knows what he's doing. He's not there to commit crimes. He's there to try to be a police agitator and to try to make sure that they don't do anything beyond what they're supposed to do. But he is not being unlawfully detained for now. I do think it's funny that he kind of called the female out and said, "Oh, I thought you were so busy, couldn't deal with me right now." And then all of a sudden, he's 30 seconds later, he's here. I do think that the sergeant was a little aggressive in his verbal commands up front, but To be honest, I don't think the department would fault him for that. I don't think that it's like the preferred way to de-escalate, but he didn't take it any further than he was legally allowed to, and I think that that's good. Now he does, I think Mr. Bronson maybe does some auditing somewhere else because he mentions a Florida statute, 3802, and he means Texas, obviously. And Texas statute 3802 does say that you don't have to identify unless you're being arrested. And so the reasonable suspicion is going to die as they figure out what this guy's game is, and their suspicions will be dispelled. And so we're never going to get to probable cause because there hasn't been a crime. And he's right. They can't require him to identify. They can't require that he assist them in their investigation. The difference is, I think he thinks he has a lawsuit, and I don't think he does. They are lawfully detaining him while they investigate if he doesn't want to help. And I would never recommend that you help because all you're going to do is help them prove a case against you or give them some other reason to try to make something up, right? So it's better just to remain silent. But part of the trade-off with that is if you're out at night when everything's closed and you're looking in windows, okay, fine, you're not doing anything wrong, but you are going to be lawfully detained, and there's not a court in America that's going to slap an officer for doing that. It just ain't going to happen. You can think whatever you want, but again, my channel's not here to tell you what you want to hear so we can both, join in unison and sing Kumbaya and hate the police. I'm here to try to educate and tell you what's real. And what's real is everybody except the people who hate police would find this suspicious. Everybody. And anybody in my audience that's reasonable about looking at the facts and circumstances, let's say you lived at an apartment building and you walked outside and that's quasi-public, right? And somebody was walking around outside with a flashlight looking in your vehicle window, you would think that is suspicious. Now, you may not want to admit that because you don't like the cops, and that's fine, but the point is, there is an underlying crime of auto burglary that would attach to that suspicion. So you only have to have reasonable suspicion that criminal activity is afoot. You obviously need to have some specific criminality in your mind to be able to articulate, but the only time you have to actually use a specific statute is when you charge somebody. But there is one more thing that he brings up called the Plain View Doctrine, so I want to watch the end of this, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap it up.
You ever heard of the Plain View Doctrine? You know what that is?
Sure do.
What is it? So you don't know. Yeah, but you're a public servant.
I do.
You're a public servant. That's the difference. You're a public servant. No, I don't have to. I have the right to remain silent. I can invoke rights. You have no rights. You don't have rights when you're on the job. You understand that? You do need to answer questions. I am standing here, but you can still answer my questions. You're the servant. Yeah, you do.
Says who?
Me. I'm the highest ranking person here right now.
Are you my boss?
Yes, I'm the highest ranking person here. I'm a citizen, you're a servant. Do you not get that? You run around these streets acting like it's something other than that, or what? Plain View Doctrine gives you the right to look into cars, and it gives me the right to look into cars too. So it's not really suspicious, is it? So now why am I being detained? This is an unlawful detainment, and I'd like to know why. What excuse are you going to come up with next of why I'm unlawfully detained? Can you tell me this? You just go around detaining people for fun because you're bored? Because it's a small town, you got nothing to do? What is it? Nothing? She's got nothing, folks. She's got nothing. What's your name and badge number? Can you say it louder? I can't hear you from that far. Can you say it where I can hear you?
Officer Leeds, 128.
128. How do you spell your last name?
Leeds, L-E-E-S.
Okay, Lees. Gotcha. It sounded like you were saying Leets or something. I couldn't tell. You're free to go if you want. You're not being detained. But you know what that means? You're free to stay if you want to. Here he comes.
Okay, so here's our complaint form. The one thing I do want to point out to you here is you would, if you wanted to turn it in and make a formal complaint, we do have to have it notarized and returned back to us. But yeah, if you wanted to fill this out and bring it back to us during normal business hours,
okay,
they'd be able to take it from you.
So since it has to be notarized, there's no way to do it anonymously?
Unfortunately, we don't investigate anonymous complaints. You can go online and you can make an anonymous complaint.
What do you mean by you don't investigate anonymous complaints?
So for me to pass that up the chain of command my way, I would have to have it notarized.
So unless you guys are able to retaliate against somebody by knowing who they are, you refuse to take it.
So it's a swearable document, and we have to make sure that whatever the person is complaining, they're willing to swear that it is true and correct to the best of their knowledge, and that's to keep people from filing false complaints.
Sure.
I can tell you, if you were to go on the website and submit an anonymous complaint, that's out of my hands.
Okay.
I don't deal with that personally. I don't know how that process looks. I just know for me, with this
You don't
form,
know if you do it online, if it has to be notarized or not?
No.
Okay.
I don't know off the top of my head. I can tell you, though, that we do get those. I don't know the process for that.
Do you guys have internal affairs?
We do.
Okay, like on site or?
We do. We do have an internal affairs division.
Cool.
We also have, if there's any investigation we can't handle.
Is that who I give this to?
That will go to our records division.
Okay.
Our records division will then get it to internal affairs.
So I can't give it to internal affairs?
No. No.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it'd just be, your stop right here would be inside that door there. There's a window to the right.
Okay.
And that's who you would speak to.
Yeah, I went up there. I seen the hours. I seen something said call 9. I was looking for a push button or something. I didn't see anything. I went around that way, didn't see anything, and then she pulls up over here. So
because we're a smaller department, we don't staff 24/7. We just use kind of really banker's hours, for lack of a better term, and that's just because of our staffing.
Okay.
Is there any other questions I can answer for you?
No, she said I'm detained, so.
And that's the thing, we do have to just make sure you're not up to, someone out here breaking into cars.
I didn't touch anything.
No, you're fine. We've established that you haven't committed a crime.
I looked around under the Plain View Doctrine, and
you're
that's
good.
it, man.
And that's the thing. Now that we know that you're just exercising your rights, you're free to go, sir.
Appreciate it.
You have a good night.
What was your name and badge?
My name is Corporal Speedy. My badge number
Corporal?
is 126.
Okay, thanks for being professional, man.
Well, hey, you're exercising your rights.
Unlike her, she wasn't very nice.
You have a good night, sir. Be safe.
You too.
So this officer does do a pretty good job of de-escalating this, I think, and he kind of wound it down a little bit, dialed it back. He backed off when the guy said, well, you don't have a right to ID me. And he said, no, I'm asking. It's voluntary. And we're like, okay, well, we're at a standoff here. And so then the officer de-escalated back down, took the complaint form, went and did what he's supposed to do. Obviously, the girl needs some training. She's not doing a great job, and she was real shitty and had a real petulant attitude about her, and that ain't going to go well for her if she continues to do that on the street. But the primary reason that I saw this video and wanted to do it is because of this, and I don't know whether Mr. Bronson actually misunderstands this or whether he is just using this as sort of like a wordplay to try to get them to be reasonable. But the truth is that the Plain View Doctrine does not apply to private citizens at all. The Plain View Doctrine is an exception to a warrant requirement. So the Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures, and there's a presumption that if a warrantless search is conducted, it's unreasonable. And then there's unless it meets one of these exceptions. And those exceptions are things like consent to search, probable cause, hot pursuit, exigent circumstances. And one of those is the Plain View Doctrine. So this is the Plain View Doctrine in a nutshell. The government agent has to be in a place where they're lawfully allowed to be. That's the first part. The second part is the thing that they are seeing that has piqued their interest has to be in plain view and visible from their lawful vantage point. The third thing is they have to have a lawful right to go access and seize that thing. And then the fourth thing is it has to be immediately apparent that that thing is illegal. Okay, that's the Plain View Doctrine. But it's not applicable to private citizens. It is an exception to the warrant requirement. What I think he's alluding to is that as long as I'm in a place where I'm allowed to be, you can't trespass my eyes. That's the idea. But it's not the Plain View Doctrine. And quoting the Plain View Doctrine is only going to cause you to lose credibility with anybody around who actually knows, because what they're going to think is, well, this guy don't know what he's talking about. And so I would caution any auditor or any person seeking to film the police or to try to educate the police not to say something like, well, the Plain View Doctrine applies to me the same as it applies to you, because it really doesn't. It really doesn't in any way. The Plain View Doctrine is something that the courts created as an exception to the warrants requirement, and it literally never gets spoken of outside of that context. There is no circumstance under which the Plain View Doctrine would apply to a private citizen having the right to look into something. The truth is this: the Fourth Amendment creates protections for things that a person has a reasonable expectation of privacy in. And the whole idea is that if an agent of the government is lawfully positioned and they can see it, then you don't have a right of privacy in that so long as it's in plain view. The idea is the same, that a person doesn't have a right of privacy in a thing that's visible from public. But it's not called the Plain View Doctrine under those circumstances. It's just a thing that you can see because you're in a lawful place in public and the person doesn't have a reasonable expectation of privacy in that thing because you can see it from a lawful place. In closing, the whole reason I wanted to do this video was because I wanted to touch on the fact that you don't have to have a specific crime in order to be able to articulate that potential criminal activity is afoot. You do have to be beyond the, well, this is a little suspicious, because remember, it has to be reasonable, right? It has to be something that an objectively reasonable officer similarly situated would also find suspicious. So it can't just be a hunch. It has to be something particular based on articulable facts, right? Well, the articulable facts in this case are, this guy's in a parking lot with police cruisers. He's got a flashlight at night shining into the windows in a place that's closed. There are 0 people on earth without a bias who wouldn't think, yeah, I mean, that person's either trying to get a rise out of the police and make it look like they're up to no good, or they're up to no good. Either way, to anybody but them, it would look like they're up to no good. So there's only a couple different types of people that would be doing that. One person would be like a person who like locked themselves out of the car and was looking in, right? Well, you still investigate that. Another person would be a person who wants to break in, and the other person would be this person who wants to make it look like he's a person who would want to break in to try to get a rise out of the police. Under any of those circumstances, the police would be authorized and justified in detaining that person long enough to figure out whether there's a crime being committed. So, and the other reason I wanted to talk about it was because I wanted to clear up the whole Plain View Doctrine issue. I just don't think it's the language that people should use during an audit, because I think it immediately reduces their credibility. Even though they might be able to explain the parallels, one, you don't want to talk to the police so much that you're trying to explain the parallels between the lack of a right to privacy and the Plain View Doctrine. But two, it really just doesn't apply to anybody except for a courtroom setting for an exception to the warrant requirement. So that's all for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. If you do want to support the Southern Draw Law channel, I don't offer any type of memberships. I will leave my Venmo and PayPal links here on the screen as well as in the description. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment on the video. Check out some of the other videos on the channel and leave a comment on there as well. Until I see you again, take care. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.